So welcome to this episode of Voices of Fostering, where today I'm joined by May. Hello, May.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us, mate. It's lovely to have you with us. So you have got a wealth of experience in fostering, haven't you? Am I right in saying it's been 15 years? Is that right?
Yes.
So tell us about how you started in fostering then, what led you towards it?
Um, it's something I've always wanted to do is foster. And I was lucky enough to have one child of my own. And my husband, he didn't want to foster when my little girl was younger. So we waited until she was 16. And I took a turn in my lifestyle. And my husband said, go for it. And I haven't looked back since. It's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, so tell us about, the initial sort of decision to become a foster carer and how you went about it really, and what the training was like. Was it what you expected?
I went about it because it was always in the back of my mind. I always wanted to do that. So I was really quite giddy about it and excited. So yes, we Googled some things and online, and NFA National Fostering Agency was top of the list, and they had loads of great reviews. So we contacted them, and it took about a month or so for it to get back to us, and we started our journey for there. It's quite daunting to start with when you've got it's called a Form F, so you're allocated a social worker, and they do your journey. You start your training, and it's quite invasive because they're coming into your home every week for at least 3 months. So yes, it was daunting, but now I understand why it needs to be done. So that was the beginning, and I've never. I love training. I'm so enthusiastic about learning new skills, and every child's individual. So I bring them in and adapt to whatever their needs are. It's exciting.
So taking us back, May, to, 15 years ago when you were first approved, I imagine you've maybe not thought about that for a while because it was such a long time ago now. But can you remember how that felt, when you were first approved and then you had that first child or young person come to stay with you? Can you tell us about that?
Oh, I remember that like it was yesterday. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I went through the panel, and I got a phone call offering 2 boys, and I was over the moon. 8 and 10, and I'm thinking, oh yes, I'll be able to do loads of stuff with them, and just my mind went a completely different road for the 2 children that came through my door. And I quickly learned to follow them. The first, they were so traumatised. It was actually, I sat down with my head in my hands thinking, oh my, I really need to stand up here. And they couldn't go to the toilet themselves. They didn't know how to use toilet roll. If I didn't shout toilet roll when they went into the toilet, it was wiped all over them. And food, they clearly hadn't had access to food, and everything in sight was being eaten. Both of them, they constantly wet beds, petrified, and it was really tough, because at night, once I got them settled, I used to just sit and go, oh, it was absolutely so overwhelming for myself. But I so wanted to do right by these children, and they they just didn't have a home that they could have had a bed. They slept on floors, or bare mattress, and that was triggers to them when they wet the bed and I used to strip the bed. That was massive triggers to them and their behaviours. Both of them were taught to fight, and the winner got the food. So this house was chaotic for the first about at least 3 months for the day they came in, and I loved the two boys. It was so rewarding for me to go out shopping and come back and give them a sweet, and they used to pick their sweet, and it was like I'd handed them the world. They were so appreciative, and I'll never forget these two boys, never. I got them into football clubs. They were out in the community. They were my life. They were just so just lovable, beautiful two boys.
So May, that sounds like, such a steep learning curve, wasn't it? The first two young people that came to stay with you, there was some real lessons there that you learnt very quickly. I suppose to be open-minded, really. As you say, you were expecting one experience and actually it was something else, wasn't it? So I suppose going into each experience now, are you more open-minded?
Oh yeah, that big learning curve for me was what you read on the chronology is never what you come through the door, because then we're taught that we're the eyes and ears for what's actually been going on in children's lives. So yes, that's why I'll read over and I just discard it and wait till the child comes in, and I flourish every single time that there's something nice happens to them. It can be, the only word is a roller coaster, because one day we're up, the next day you're down. So.
Yeah, and you use that word that we talk about a lot on the podcast, but it can't be underestimated how rewarding it is, because as you say, how long did those boys stay with you for?
That was another big learning curve, because 15 years ago children were moved from foster home to foster home quite regular, and I'm a private agency, and the kids were accommodated before they came to me, back and forward 3 or 4 times to the home, and there was a council carer come up, so they moved them, which again, I was distraught, but again, it is a massive learning curve. Thankfully, it rarely happens today, but back 15 years ago, that was regular, that they just placed kids to be cheaper, and I couldn't get that round my head, because the child was never in the centre. It was always about something else that was going on. So yeah, you quickly harden up to the harsh reality, to social work, and it's bigger than that.
I think it is an interesting point to touch on, though, mate, that your time with a child or a young person does come to an end. And I think that's something that a lot of people fear, that you'll get attached and that it'll be really difficult. What's that experience like for you when a child or a young person moves on?
Mixed emotions, depending on the level of need of the child. I've had quite a few, as the longest placement, loved that boy. He was a part of your family, and he went down the wrong path, and it was very dangerous, and the decision was taken out of my hands that he needed to move on. So that And it wasn't till he actually moved out that's what led me to mindfulness, because I was broken. And looking back now, I could have done lots of things different. I always reflect on what I could have done. So that feeling was relief, total relief, because I was being abused every day, verbally, assaults. So yeah, and I still wanted to look after that boy, because I was the only person that hadn't let him down at that point.
Yeah, so May, you've talked about mindfulness there, which we will come on to, because I really, really want to hear all about how you've got into mindfulness. But you say there, it was very, very difficult, but you're still doing it, aren't you? You're still being a foster carer. So what is it that makes you want to continue?
The nurturing. I just need to be I've got loads of love to give, and it's I love it. I don't even class it as having a job. It's my life. And there at the front, my my daughter, she's a secondary school teacher, and she's in the special needs. So it's a family thing. So we're all supporting each other. So a mixture of emotions, of relief to, do I really want to foster now? Because you come to a point where you are down, you're battered, you're done, because tough. And that's the point I came to. Do I really want to foster now? Can I continue this daily? And that's when I got into mindfulness. That it retrained my mind into, I was taking everything personal. It's not personal. It's the way the kids have been brought up, the trauma they've suffered, and I'm their sounding board. So yeah, when you take a different approach and you're looking after yourself, that is when it all starts clicking into place.
Yes, so mindfulness then, May. Tell us about, how you discovered it. Had you heard of it before? Was it just a word, that you'd maybe heard of, or how did you get into it?
Well, I love training. Everything. I read all the time. Just when children come in, I start with whatever traumas or abuse they've suffered. I start delving into things. And at that point, our agency had a lovely lady who was doing the training, and she was into mindfulness, and she kept saying, look, you would really love this. And it was something where, do I really want to do more training when it's for me? I didn't see it for myself. I wanted to train for the kids. So it took a number of months for me to start doing the mindfulness. And I went on a course with the trainer through Headspace, and I loved it. Loved it. It was the only night of the week I used to come home and have a full night's sleep. So that I always, and now I can just sit in the moment where, when behaviours are escalating, it's quite easy for a foster carer to be pulled into that and be up the same level as the kid. And what I struggled with was, I was still up at that level, and the kids can regulate very quickly, and you're still left. So it just escalated and escalated to the point where I was sitting at night with my head in my hands thinking, what am I going to do? And so mindfulness for that. And once again, I took that by both hands, and I started looking at other training, and I took up breathworks, and I've done a course with breathworks to actually lead a group of meditation. I can lead a meditation. Right at the beginning, I was more into mindfulness for the little girl that I've got, traumatised, day and night. And it was like flashbacks she was getting of the abuse, and we used to call it bad dreams. So I used to do mindful stories, and massage her back, and just it's like she sits with her back to you. So when you're not looking, they can actually start telling you. Once they're relaxed, they'll start telling you what's actually going on. So yeah, I used to do it with the little girl, and I've still got the little girl in care. That's nearly 7 years, and it's brought her on. Yep.
So, May, for anyone listening or watching who maybe is brand new to mindfulness, maybe they've heard the word or maybe they've never heard of it, can you just tell us exactly sort of what it is and what it involves and what the benefits are?
Well, the benefits to me, it involves taking time for yourself, and being in tune with your body. There's your mind's always racing, or with foster carers, we try to be one step ahead, and mindfulness can actually stop that in your head and bring yourself back to the present, and just concentrate on what's the here and now. So it actually relaxes. It relaxes you. You can do full body meditations. You can do a 2-minute meditation, and then you can actually just have mindful moments where you can just be sitting, and it's all about your mind going, acknowledging what's there and bringing it back to what is in the here and now. So I feel so relaxed, I'm much more confident now, and it's rewarding for me. It's put me back on the road where I love what I'm doing. After the number of foster carers will have a devastating ending, for one reason or another, and it brought me back from that, back to where I was at the beginning. And I am a much better person for it now. I can control my own mind, not letting it run wild with me and preempting what might happen. It's all about the here and now. There's loads, and there's so much mindfulness. It helps in the kids. If you get your kids into it, they can sit beside you. They can, it takes a long time to get where I'm with actually stop and bringing your mind back to the present, because a foster carer's always wanting to do something and always wanting to do the next thing.
So how long have you been doing this then? And I imagine that you wish you'd have found it earlier, May. Would I be right in saying that?
Yes, yeah, definitely. 7 years.
Oh, wow.
7 years. Just at the point where the 2 kids that I've got just now, they were coming into my care, because that was the sort of, do I really want to foster? And I still wasn't 100%. So this was just supposed. This was a short break, and we're 7 years down the line.
So if anybody watching or listening now, May, maybe was interested in this, what would you suggest to them to maybe sort of dip their toe in, or, to help them to sort of cope with the everyday stresses and strains of daily life? What would you recommend?
There's apps on your phone you can download, and it gives you different meditations to start off with. Just listen to it at night, because that's when, for a foster carer, that is probably the time where your mind can't switch off. So that playing in the background would switch your mind off and be able to relax you, so you can have a good night's sleep. Then there's courses that you can pick up. There's breathworks. That was one of there's a whole host online that you can download. Yoga's sort of, you do with mindfulness as well. There's groups, that there's a place where I live that it's wild swimming, and you do meditations at night, and you can do wild swimming, and it's a different group of people that you're actually meeting for you, is for you, for, do something for yourself before. If you're 100%, you're giving 100% commitment to your kids. I am not frightened to say that I wasn't giving the kids 100% when I was down, because I didn't have any more fuel left to give. It was take, take, take. But mindfulness is now, my mind is in a different place. I feel much better. And it just gradually, it's once that you miss it a week and you think, oh, I've not had my mindfulness, my meditation, because I still do it weekly with the same group. So yeah, it's like your mind knows that that's the time, and that's the time for you, and you sit, and it just relaxes you.
And I imagine you can't really imagine your life without it now. Would that be correct?
Oh, definitely not. Because if we miss a week or someone's on holiday, by the time you come round to sit again in a group, it's like, oh, I really needed that, without even realising that you're not 100%. Yeah.
Brilliant. And just going back to fostering before we finish our chat, May, if there was anybody listening or watching who was thinking about becoming a foster carer, but maybe finding it a bit daunting, what would you say to them? How would you encourage them to look into it and maybe get involved like you have yourself?
There's lots of open days. Go to different places on the internet. There's or the list will come up, or if you know a foster carer, they'll give you an insight. So if anybody does want to foster, give them a phone number. It's really rewarding when you're in the right headspace. It can be difficult, if you've got a difficult placement, because all placements are different. We've got enhanced placements, you've got short breaks. You could come as a respite carer if you just wanted to do it at weekends, to help carers get a break. So yeah, I would look on the internet, or if you know a group, your local council, or a private agency.
And it's been quite the journey for you, hasn't it, May? As you said earlier, ups and downs, but I imagine you wouldn't change it, would you?
Oh, definitely no. It's been a massive learning curve. Going back about 10 years, my first girl that I can now link to trauma. When the trauma word is used regular, and I think that girl, again, she was my world. She then left to go to a residential home because her needs it was 24 hours care she needed. And the day that she left, she stood up and says, "May, why are you crying?" She says, "Patrick will look after you now," and went away with a stranger. And I thought, that the trauma, it's like you're thinking that she's the emotion. There's no emotions, because she would cuddle you, but there was nothing like me. It wasn't nurturing. It wasn't, and it's just a matter of fact. So that was another learning curve. The trauma, how it affects the children's like the emotion. There was no emotion. Just it was a matter of fact, and away she went with a stranger. So that for me brought the trauma into. I wanted to learn more about that, because I couldn't believe that a wee girl so loving, well, which I was thinking was so loving, stayed with you for 3 years and just got up one day and was getting moved by a stranger and went. So yeah, it's the more you want to learn, the more your doors open for enhanced placements, different. It's just there's a whole host of different placements and different kids and your experiences, and you really need to think to yourself, what is it you want to put up with? You always need to have your rules in place, and sit down with your social worker, have plans, and great communication with your social worker is key. For help, that's your sounding board. Yeah.
Well, May, it's been so wonderful speaking to you and hearing your journey and your journey into mindfulness as well, and how it's transformed your life for the better. So thank you so much. Best of luck with the future. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to get involved in the conversation, we would love to hear your questions. Maybe there's something you'd really like to ask about fostering. Get in touch. You can email us on podcast@nfa.co.uk.